Now back to one of the big stories today. Disgraced former Steinhoff CEO Markus Jooste receives the biggest insider trading penalty ever levied on a South African. The previous one, I'm told, was 24 million rand. Markus Jooste will have to cough up a minimum of 122 million rand slapped on him by the Financial Sector Conduct Authority for insider or sharing insider information via SMS. Jooste led Steinhoff until his abrupt resignation in December 2017, when revelations of an accounting scandal sent the company's share price crashing. Now, in a moment, we'll take a look at that SMS. It's one of the crucial pieces of evidence, and this was sent by Markus Jooste to some of the shareholders close to him, warning them to dispose of their shares. I want to bring in Brandon Topham, who's the Divisional Executive for Investigations at the FSCA. Brandon, thanks very much indeed for talking to us. Mr. Jooste's 122 million rand penalty, I understand, is the largest part of the bigger batch of 241 million rand in Steinhoff-related fines. Do they all revolve around that tip-off SMS we just mentioned?
Correct. Yeah, we analysed thousands of transactions and narrowed it down to 60 accounts during the period, and in the end we prosecuted probably eight of them, and they all boiled down to, at this point in time, that one SMS. As I say, a very expensive SMS.
What's interesting is that these fines, you say, do not fall within the scope of criminality. But of course you can pursue this with the courts and the police if you want to.
Yeah, so everything we do as a regulatory authority is considered to be civil in nature. We call them administrative penalties, but the breach of the Act amounts to a criminal offence as well, and the police and the National Public Prosecution can actually take it further if they wanted to. They are, however, capped at a criminal fine of 50 million rand and or 10 years in jail, but they will take into account, or they do need to take into account, whatever fine we administer.
Brandon, you've spoken to Mr. Jooste and one of the recipients of that SMS, Oscan Investment Enterprise. They've denied any wrongdoing. How significant is this? And the reason I'm saying is that presumably they can take their legal avenues from this point and not pay the fine within the 30-day limit that you've put forward.
Well, that's correct. I mean, we have a constitution, so they have the right to appeal our decision, firstly to our Financial Sector Tribunal. Thereafter, they also have certain rights to the High Court and to the Constitutional Court. That is normal in South Africa. We do anticipate that some people will challenge our decision. Our decision is based on a balance of probabilities. We've really used a number of legal experts to agree with our interpretation of things, so we're very happy and prepared to defend our decision in the various tribunals.
The size of this fine, Brendan, only takes into account the money lost to shareholders at the end of November. I was listening to that presser early on in the day, but if you expanded the period of this fine, it could potentially be much higher. So how do you then get to an actual value of the penalty?
So it's not the loss to shareholders in general. The fine is based on how much profit was made by the inside information, or in this case, how much loss was avoided as a result of acting on the inside information. And yes, it is very difficult to determine the exact date in which we must calculate the loss avoided. If we waited another week, it would have been more. Another month would have been tremendously more, etc. So we've worked with what we consider to be a fair and conservative period of days.
Just as before I let you go, though, Brandon, I beg your pardon, this investigation, I would understand, still has some legs in it, doesn't it?
Well, the insider trading from our part is basically finished. It obviously can go on to the various appeal things. We will open up the criminal cases in due course for the prosecuting authority to decide whether there is something that they wish to prosecute or not, considering they may decide that the penalty that we've imposed is sufficient. It's not our call to make. But more importantly, in the greater Steinhoff matter, the persons that were behind the false and misleading information, for which Steinhoff, the company, was fined last year, 1.5 billion, limited down to the 56 million, they still must be expecting letters from us with similar orders to this to answer in the coming months. And we hope to have that entire process finished by the April 2021.
All right, thanks very much indeed. The Financial Sector Conduct Authority, they're speaking to us, Brandon Topham, who's the Divisional Executive for Investigations. That's where we leave business for now.